And a good afternoon to you, wherever you may be at home, in the office, your home office, off on the couch, at the lake, the river, the beach, the golf course, whatever you may be doing. Welcome to the King's Court. Ryan in Sacktown with you. We have been coming heavy with the content on If You Don't Like That. Oh, we're already getting calls in the King's Court. My goodness, we're going to have to decline that one because that is not actually a call for the show. But you know what's funny? We've got the air horn now. So you're going to hear anytime a call goes off. So if you want to be the one to set the air horn off, you can call 916-399-3748. We would love to have you call the show. That's a lot of fun. Chad hit us up a couple days ago. TC hit us up on the line a couple days ago. So we can take those calls. We're starting to get some more information trickling out from the Sacramento Kings and sources about some of the offseason tension, possibly. Where is the frustration? There appears to be some frustration with somebody, according to some reports. We'll talk about that in a second. The Sac Republic take care of business yesterday against the San Jose Earthquakes. Did you check that one out? The Eastern Conference Finals, the Pacers, they go into Boston, play an amazing game. And I've got to take not just on the Pacers, but just the teams in the postseason that have had a lot of success. Keyword, team there. I know the Pacers didn't pull it off. In fact, I'm a little peeved at the NBA right now. I have been checking all day, waiting for the 2-minute report. Nobody's really talking about this, or I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it, but Siakam was shoved in the back last night after the ball was deflected. I'm not worried about the deflection. His arm got hit on that deflection, but the ball was hit first. That's all and good. Now, before we got to that point, there was a little bit of a jersey pull. It happens. I don't expect a call there. But Siakam was literally shoved in the back, chasing the basketball. Carlisle had no timeout he had no challenge to use. He had already used it previous to that. And I appreciate Rick Carlisle coming out and saying, look, this one's on me. I should have advanced the ball. We should have been shooting free throws. Instead, we lost the game. And that could have been Indiana's best shot to get one in Boston, because this Boston team, if you figured them out, please call the show and dial us in, because I have not. Some nights they show up, sometimes they do not. And there was a lot, too, besides Rick Carlisle to pick apart with that Pacers game, okay? There was a lot to pick apart. I mean, in overtime, why are you doubling Derek White off the pick and roll and leaving Jason Tatum open? Makes no sense. Tatum hits a wide open three from the top of the key. You knew as soon as that game was going to OT, it was over. Indiana was not going to get that one back. And Tyrese Halliburton, great performance again. I think it was a little bit, look, they just came off an emotional game 7 in New York. Probably one of the best playoff games, like end to end, quarter to quarter, that any team has played offensively. The Pacers were on point. They go straight from a physical, tough series right into Boston, where it doesn't get much easier. Boston comes out, starts 12-0, and you're thinking, all right, there's no rust to knock off, but the Pacers just hang around. And there's a reason for that. Again, I want to get back to that in a little bit. Also, I said we were going to do the hard nose or glows. There's a few other stories that I would rather talk about today, and I want to get all of you dialed in on those as well. National stories, one related to NIL. Actually, a college football player is suing. Yes, you heard me right. Suing a coach because of a financial commitment that was allegedly made to him. I want to talk about that more because, of course, the NCAA is jumping in now. You know how I feel about the NCAA. What are they? They are glorified meter maids. What else do they do? Put their name on every college event? I mean, it just seems like it's time for a change. That last football season, college football season, when Jim Harbaugh was disciplined by his conference before the NCAA disciplined him. And then, hold on, the NCAA takes a step back and says, well, you know what? Good job, conference. You handled it. We're not going to do anything else. We're going to go with your investigation. So it's just unreal to me. They jump in at the stupidest times, and then they come down on teams for the stupidest things. It's like they have quotas. We've got to find this many violations. Look, it's not that teams don't need to be kept in check. They do, and there's ways to do that. But the NCAA, probably the last 20, 25 years, has really rubbed me the wrong way. Part of that is because I went through that process. I know the different things that you could and could not do if you were an athlete, if you were signed up with the NCAA, and it was bonkers. It was stupid. Yet you could, look, many loopholes. We know about them. I'm not going to get all the way into that take, but we haven't talked a lot of football. If you want to talk some football, we can do that. Also, baseball. We hit that some yesterday with the Oakland A's, the A's. Someone was asking about an expansion team. And Condog, I saw you there. Pop back up in about 5-10 minutes. I just want to get through the open here. But asking about an expansion team in Sacramento, could that happen? Let's talk expansion somewhere else. Numbers are starting to leak out about the proposed deals for the NBA rights, both internationally, streaming, etc. The A plan, the B plan, as they're calling it. And what does that mean? I mean, these are massive deals for the NBA. We're talking billions of dollars a year, multi-billion dollar deals per year. So to me, it's time for expansion in the NBA. Seattle, you deserve a basketball team. Las Vegas, you are a perfect spot for a basketball team too. Not a baseball team, Oakland. Not a baseball team. I think those two cities would absolutely thrive. Vegas has gotten behind the Golden Knights. Look, anything outdoors in Vegas, especially during the summer times, and even during the winter fall, it can get really cold there too. And I get it. Some of you are on the East Coast. You're like, shut the hell up, Ryan. That's not cold. But for Vegas, it's a little chilly. Unless you're golfing, you're not going to want to be outside a ton in Vegas unless you're sitting by the pool, too. If you're at one of the clubs, I mean, Vegas predominantly is an indoor city. And look at the sporting events that have come to Vegas. I said the Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, the WNBA team, they have proven that they can work in Vegas. And there's enough NBA games. You get 41 home games a season. You're telling me those casinos don't have comps to give out NBA tickets? That's a pretty damn good comp. And it would be a city that would be a destination, no doubt. People would travel to see their teams there. So, Condog, if you want to hop back on the line, we'll get to you in just 1 second. Let's get to the chat. I've laid out a few things. Anything you want to talk about, put it in. Again, you can call the show 916-399-3748. Let's get the scroll up and going. The ticker, the King's Court ticker. There we go. Back to the comments. Mike Dizzle. Yeah. So, Mike, did you see the same thing I did? After the deflection, it's a loose ball. Shoving is more allowed in that situation. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we change the whistle for certain situations? You can't shove a player like that. If you're under the hoop getting a rebound and you get a forearm in the back, that is a loose ball foul. It should be exactly the same. I get each player has an equal right to the basketball. And here's the other thing, too, that we're not talking about. That was a really, really crappy jump ball that the ref threw. And I guess it doesn't matter because the Pacers got the possession, but it's just these mistakes can't keep happening. Rick Carlisle should have had another challenge, or there should have been some type of other recourse to fix something like that. You can't miss that call. Indy's up 3 points with the basketball on the road, about to steal game one, steal it. And what happens? I get they made a bad play, and I'm with JJ Redick here. JJ Redick was spot on when he was talking to Mike Breen about this. The whole, hey, make sure you foul them before they get the 3-point shot up. Don't let them get a 3-ball up. It is so hard to do in today's NBA. A lot of times, if you are going to foul somebody intentionally, you're letting the refs or the coach is letting the refs know about that, so it doesn't turn into one of those weird-looking plays where the ball's being thrown around every which way and guys are being kind of shoved, and you get my point. But in that situation, I don't like it. That is the difference in games sometimes. Literally, just a call like that. And think about how much the narrative would be different today if that doesn't happen. If the Pacers retain possession. Now, we've talked about the Fox versus Halliburton thing, and it's not a verse thing. When I was talking about it earlier this week, I was just talking simply about the way the league is looking at its point guards, how the fans are looking at the point guards. And Tyrese Halliburton, he's a household name right now. He is. And I'm not saying De'Aaron can't be, but we talked about if you lined him up one-on-one, De'Aaron would beat him almost every single time. And you saw that on the last possession of regulation with Hallie. He got past the defender, but then the problem, he can't get his jump shot off quick enough. So he goes, takes a different move, gets like a little bit of a better look, maybe a little bit of a worse look, doesn't take that, ends up stuck behind the 3-ball line and has to throw up a prayer. So, like I said, you can call the show 916-399-3748. You can also call through Restream. We bring in Con Dog, my corn dog, to start Wednesday. What's up,
Ryan?
How you doing?
So first of all, you got to understand why they doubled Derek White, and that's just because he's the greatest Celtic of all time.
Oh, unreal! I don't know why they didn't triple him.
You know what's funny is literally last year this time when he hit that clutch shot versus Miami, there was a Twitter space I listened in on, and some dude goes in, Derek White, greatest Celtic of all time. Screw Paul Pierce, screw Larry Bird, screw Bill Russell, Derek White, man. So, yeah, Derek White is confirmed the greatest Celtic of all time.
Yep, all time. You heard it here first on the King's Court from Condog. He put his name to it, not an anonymous report. You know what? They're going to quote you as corn dog in the articles now. Watch.
Local corn dog
Local
says.
Corn Dog. Yeah.
Local. Yeah. But yeah, I always have to put it out there. Derek White's the greatest Celtic. It's been confirmed, you know.
He's a good player. But I'm not doubling him off pick and roll. Never.
No. In all honesty, no. That's a
come on.
No. I mean, you got other guys to worry about on that team. I mean, they are a stacked roster.
They are, but you know what? That's what I'm going to get to here in a little bit. I mean, we can start the conversation now. Look at the two teams to me that have had the most success in this postseason, Indiana and Minnesota. Both of them have probably played beyond their expectations, but they're teams. It's team basketball. Everybody's touching the ball for the most part, and that makes a huge difference. I know that Indiana led the league in assists this year, but it's this time of year when you're an isolation team, the Celtics, I'm not going to call them an ISO team, but they're much closer to an ISO team if you match them up against the Pacers. And when you can play a little bit of defense, that can really, really give those offensive problems like you saw in Denver and like you saw last night in Boston.
Yeah, and honestly, Boston played great. Like they played bad to let Indiana come back like that, but man, they played great to get that game back in the overtime. And honestly, I've always said this. Just if you whatever you do not let it get to overtime if you're the underdog and you're on the road. That's just a bad. Like, I mean, I don't care what sport you're playing. You don't want to be against the favorite in their hometown and with an extra amount of time for them to find a way to beat you, because eventually I think that talent, that higher coaching tier will just catch up with you.
Yep, there's no doubt. I mean, that shot that Jaylen Brown hit, credit
Oh
to him.
my,
It was
what a fantastic
shot.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was coming out. I thought it was going back rim, and that thing goes.
I thought it was a bad shot at first, but I was like, oh, he nailed it.
Yeah, and that to me sealed the game. It's like, all right, there you go. And the fact that, and I have been waiting, Condog, all day for the 2-minute report. Usually when there's like 4, 5, 6 games during the season, by about 1 p.m. our time, you will get the 2-minute report from last night's game. I will check right now again, but as of the start of this show, they had not released. There was only one damn game last night. Release the report.
Oh, they're reviewing every millisecond.
It's unreal. So, anything else you want to add, buddy?
I'm just excited for this Dallas series, actually. I think Dallas, Minnesota, that's going to be one. We're going to probably see some great Luka games, some great, Anthony Edwards. We're going to see Kyrie. We're getting a lot of good guard play. There's some good bigs out there, too. And you know what? This is the first time, Western Conference Finals hasn't featured a former champion. And who knows how, a team that hasn't, because Dallas is a former champion, but it's been so long. Yeah. But yeah, at least within the last 10 years, this is like pretty much a brand new Western Conference Finals. No Curry, no LeBron, no Jokic, no, not even a Kawhi or a Harden or Durant. It's pretty much, it's all fresh. So we have no idea how ready these guys. We know what Kyrie can do, but pretty much the whole rest of the table is just wide open.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And that's what makes it fun. Grant thinks the ratings are going to be down. I don't disagree with him, but I do think that it will be more exciting and actually better for the NBA, in my opinion.
You know what? If you just this is the problem that wrestling has as well. If you keep relying on the old talent so much to keep your ratings afloat in the current, then no one's going to want to watch the young guys at all when they're ready to take over the reins. You have to give them a shot to, build up their repertoire and become that big star. If not, then you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. And that's what happened with WCW is they kept focusing on the old guys so much, and all the new guys just went and left to WWE.
Yep. No, it's a good point.
Yeah.
You got to give them new blood.
Yeah, they lost. They lost so many guys: Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho dipped, Big Show dipped, which was the Giant at the time, but because all they were focusing on was Hogan and Razor Ramon and Macho Man and Goldberg once when he arrived, but that was about it.
That's why they didn't work out. It's the old school.
Yeah, it was good. It was good at first, but yeah, then everyone got tired of it.
Yep. Amen, my man. And I'm glad there's some new blood, at least at WWE now, running things different. That's cool. But Tony Khan, you know how I feel about him, Khan Dog.
Hey,
So.
Draft or got to promote my AEW Dynamite.
There you go, brother. They're in Bakersfield tonight, actually, I think.
Yeah, they came through Stockton not that long ago either.
Cool. Well, hey, man, thanks for kicking us off here on a Wednesday.
Later.
All right, that is a corn dog, Mr. Moss, coming to you in 2 seconds. The 2-minute report is out. I am trying to skim this very carefully because I want to make sure that I am seeing this. Correct no call, foul, loose ball. Let's see. Review 8.6. Siakam gets a foul. Tatum. Okay, so I've got to look at this a little bit closer, but my guess is, let's see, do we have any incorrects? All right, I will look at this closer. In the meantime, we're going to get to your comments in a second. We're going to bring up our dude, Mr. Moss. What's up, man? How you doing today?
Hey, Rhino, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. No complaints.
Oh, cool, man. I think me and you're kind of on the same page. I was looking forward to the 2-minute report as well. That's something that I like to do after some of these big postseason games. I just checked my stats just here. Real quick on Boston and Indiana. Boston shot 30 free throws. Indiana shot 10.
Yeah, I know.
Jason Tatum alone outshot Indiana. He shot 12. And the fact that Indiana was in a position to win that game last night was so impressive, and we talk about fouling guys and, make it a free throw contest.
Mm-hmm.
I think in that position, right, where Jaylen Brown's at on the court, I'm okay with that. Listen, you tip your cap and you say, you know what, he had a tough shot. Some people may say, no, you foul right there. But, you put your hand inside the cookie jar, right? You could, come on. And so it's a tough spot to be in that moment. And so Jaylen hits a tough shot. He's off balance. Listen, the shot making in this era, in this league, the past 10, 12 years is just amazing.
Stupid.
And so, again, I tip the cap and I say, you know what? It is what it is. I will say this, though. I think Boston needs to get used to the Pacers' pace. They play fast and they get up a lot of shots. They shoot quick in the shot clock. You're right. They led the league in assists. I think Boston shoots too many threes at times.
Yep.
They were the best 3-point shooting team in the league at 16 per game. Mm-hmm. But I think we both agree come postseason, can you run a half court set and get some good, easier shots, going towards the basket. So look for Boston to slow us up just a little bit, right? They still are going to penetrate, draw and kick. But, I don't think Indiana can take advantage of Boston's mistakes by shooting threes, but I think a team like Minnesota could, right? I think Minnesota can dominate that paint and make you hit perimeter jump shots, and they're good enough defensively on the perimeter. Alexander Walker, Edwards, and McDaniels, good enough to where they can play guys one-on-one, and there's not going to be those draw and kick opportunities for Boston. So we'll see if Minnesota can deploy that tonight versus Dallas. Have you got a chance to break that down? What's your thoughts? What do you think?
Yeah, I talked about it with Grant a little bit last night. Really quick, I want to go back to what you said about the pressure and can they keep pace with Indiana, Boston. Indiana extends you sometimes. They like to pick up full court. Sometimes they will trap when you least expect it. And certain teams, I've noticed, like Boston, ball handling is not their strength. Like, you got Drew Holiday, but you get Tatum dribbling around too much. You get Jaylen Brown dribbling around too much. It turns into a little bit of a problem for them. So I think that is where Indy needs to take advantage of things, put them in those positions, get them comfortable or get them uncomfortable rather than being comfortable. Tonight, I think it's really interesting, right? Because to me, it's a chess match because the guys you mentioned on Indiana or on Minneapolis or Minnesota, I can't talk right now. On Minnesota, sometimes they show up and sometimes they don't. And when McDaniel shows up, when Anthony Edwards gets that help, and I guess Conley is like the biggest piece of that because Conley knows his role and he just gets everybody in the right spot. And it seems like out of everybody in the playoffs now, when the shot clock runs down, Minnesota knows exactly where the ball needs to be, and they get that shot off right away. You saw that a couple times in those last games against Denver. I think Minnesota really extends Dallas. Dallas is not a quick team. Dallas is athletic. They're a little bit bigger inside, but it's a different big. They're not as physically big. They can play a little bit more above the rim to me, outside of Anthony Edwards. But I just don't see it. I could totally see them pushing Luka out. You know, Mr. Moss, getting to spots is the NBA, but getting to spots in the playoffs is a whole different story. And I just don't see Minnesota allowing Luka to start getting the ball right there, free throw line extended, back and down. I think they're going to put them in different spots and make them use all of the shot clock as much as possible.
You make a great point. I think Minnesota. I think with Denver, they always had to worry about Aaron Gordon lurking around the basket, right? And so even if Rudy or Carl came over to help off, Jamal or Joker, whatever, you had somebody on the backside close to their rim. This is Denver. Whereas the Dallas Mavericks, they don't do that so much, right? I think their bigs, Lively, Gafford. I think PJ Washington, he stands around the three-point line more so than the guys I just mentioned.
Yeah.
I think Minnesota is going to be able to help off him and Lively, Gafford and Lively, more so than they could versus Denver. And they're going to blind Luka with his passing lanes. I think look for Luka's turnovers to go up this series.
Yes.
I'm
with you.
Yeah, a lot of forced passes. Even Kyrie at times. He's small, and Minnesota is long and lengthy. You made a great point about, McDaniels and Alexander Walker, and I love Mike Conley. I mean, isn't he just a constant professional,
Consummate professional.
Listen, you talked about shot clock running down right now. To me, in that game 7, he had the biggest shot of the game.
Corner?
No, not the corner. The one before that. Remember, Porter Jr. hits the 3 on the baseline. It's tied at 72. Mike comes down the next possession, and the shot clock's running down. He's being guarded by, I think, Jamal or something. He pump fakes. And again, why do NBA players jump at shooters like this, right?
I know.
I just don't get it, right?
So funny, I know.
Conley, he just patiently just boom, pump fakes, sidesteps, and just boom, right? They go back up 3, and they're off and running. And so, again, I want Kyrie to – listen, I'm a big Kyrie guy. I think at one point the league tried to cancel him. And so, for me –
What do you mean? Expand.
Well, I think at one point the media, the NBA, there was a target on his back. I think the whole tweet thing about – remember the anti-Semitic thing and movie theater and stuff like that? I just feel like, there's been guys in our league who have done things and they didn't get crucified, like that, right? And the media picks and chooses their athletes, right? We've had, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, the list goes on and on.
Yep.
And, but I just like Kyrie. And so, yeah, I think Minnesota has a recipe to beat them. If you don't mind, I want to go back to Indiana and Boston. I won't keep it too long.
Do it. Dude,
can we please give Peyton Richardson and TJ McConnell their credit?
Oh my
They
God.
might be the 2 best back. Listen, I should think that Ty Jones for the Wizards in Memphis was the best backup point guard behind Ja Morant. I think TJ and Peyton has taken over that role. Those 2 guys right there, oh my God. Listen, they're not going to get the recognition. Their name's not being brought up like it should. But when you talk about bringing in 2 backup point guards, and they literally have high IQs, they can run your offense, they can shoot, they're feisty on defense. Those are my type of NBA point guards, right?
Yes.
Just well-rounded. They know where to be at. They don't back down. They're not quite John Stockton, but they give the John Stockton vibe just a little bit, tiny bit. But, give me your thoughts on those 2 guys, because I thought, there's going to be times where the games are kind of teetering back and forth. Your bench is in, my bench is in, and it may come down to the role players and what backup point guard is going to get the best out of his guys. And to me, it's a wash. I think Peyton and TJ they're right there, and they just play good old-fashioned basketball.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Jerry and I talked about this last week. I said John Stockton too, and I said I felt weird saying it
Yes.
because not at that level, but there's a distinct difference. And I want to get your thoughts on this too. I watch the guards, whether they're backups or whether they're starters for some of these teams, they're constantly, whether the ball is in their hand or not, putting pressure on the defense. They are making the defense make a decision, and they're putting themselves in position where they keep their dribbles alive and they have multiple options to play with. And it's something way different than we see in Sacramento. Usually it's like drive down to the baseline, get cut off, you either jump in the air, stuck in the air, or you got to call a timeout, or you turn the ball over. And I just think it makes such a huge difference because it's those little things, it's those passing angles, it's the spacing that opens things up. And I mean, I don't know where there's not a huge drop off with Indiana when TJ McConnell's on the floor. And it's refreshing to me because what I was kind of getting at the top of the show, and you're kind of getting here too, some of these teams, and I'm going to lean more Indiana here rather than Boston, they play like teams. They complement each other's strengths. They know each other's roles. They know where each other need the ball. They know the right time to pull that special play out of their pocket. And not only that, Mr. Moss, they crash the damn boards.
Yes.
I mean, they're all over the place. So, and Josh Hart, too, you can throw him in. I haven't watched Peyton Pritchard as much. I've watched a lot more TJ McConnell, but I do really like what he brings to the second unit for them. It's the same thing. Slow and steady, fundamental, 90s point guards.
Yes.
90s point guards in this era.
The reason why I bring up guys like Peyton and TJ is because I saw Payne here in Sacramento, and he totally had his way with Sacramento here in Sac.
I remember that, yeah.
That was a game where Jason didn't play, and I think Payne hit like 5 threes. And then me and the wife, we flew to Boston to see Boston play, and he played there as well. And I remember I was down there, and I got a chance to talk to some of the Boston's media down there right now. And they kept raving on how the Boston coaching staff, they just trust him. They trust him. And one guy says, and maybe he was being hyperbole, but he says the team actually functions better from a playmaking and just high IQ and just efficient when he's on the court. We love Jrue Holiday, right? Elite defensively for the most part. But Payne does some things that Jrue doesn't do, right? And Drew's past his prime a little bit. You talk about, these point guards keeping their dribble alive. To me, that's the key, right? A point guard should never have his dribble picked up, right? Because once
never
you dribble,
last player on the court, it should never happen.
Right. And then too, these 2 point guards do a great job, walking the baseline, keeping their head up, right? Kicking the ball back out to the perimeter. You talked about crashing the boards, I call them, just old fashioned, they're just versatile players, right? I don't think they're great at nothing, but they're good at a lot of things. And I think a lot of teams need to get back to players like this. And so, yeah, man. So I just thought that maybe I can throw those names out there and we give them their credit because we all know Siakam, Halliburton, Jason, and Jalen are going to get their just due. But I like the guys who come in. And again, to get back to Peyton and TJ, it's their settled movements, right? Look how Peyton and TJ run the pick and roll. They understand, distance. They understand time, place, and score. They understand pace. They know when to push it. They know when not to push it. And here's the key too, right? They don't put their offensive scores in positions to where they can't score. I can't stand it when a point guard passes the ball, right, to a guy, and it's like, for what? Like, know your personnel, right? And last point, and I'll let you go. I hate it when a point guard sets a pick and roll, Rhino, and the guy setting the pick, he's not ready yet. As a point guard, you have to know this, right? Like, I mean, don't go until the pick is set. That's why there's so many offensive fouls from the point guard position, man. But I'm looking forward to tonight's game. I don't know. I mean, it's a toss-up. I mean, I think Minnesota wins it because my basketball mind tells me that. I want Dallas to win, but I don't know, man. I mean, I'm glad to see Indiana and Minnesota in this position. We've seen Dallas here before a few years back. We've seen Boston. Boston, listen, last point. If Boston Celtics don't win the championship this year, there's no excuse. You talk about a path to the finals.
Yep.
Denver's out of here, right?
Yep.
Denver's gone. Even though Minnesota has the length and they have the personnel to make it tough on Boston, they have no excuse not to win the championship. And so if they don't get it done this year, right? And I think we all agree Porzingis is coming back in the next couple of games. They should be in position to win this thing. And if they don't, then there needs to be some tough questions answered and some tough moves made, man. But you have a good day. You enjoy the game, and we'll talk some more soon, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. You as well. You always make it better. Thanks for popping in, brother.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Moss talking some good basketball. The one thing that I was going to say about Boston before he bounced out, and he's right to a degree, Boston sometimes has looked disinterested. And it's not one of those things that's just happened here and there in the playoffs. It's happened throughout the season. I mean, when Boston wants to be good, they are really good, but something does seem a little bit off. But, some of these great teams can play really ugly and then still come out with a win, get that, ugly win. Some teams need that. That can be a big thing. We have gotten away from the chat. Let's get back to that really quick. And then I've got a few things that I want to touch on. Alberto, what's up, man? Desert. Yeah, we got the desert one in there. John, you do not want Haunted Horse to sing you a song, my man. In fact, there is video on the internet of Haunted Horse singing. I'm not going to direct you on where to find that, HollywoodRejects.com, but you can find that somewhere on the internet, like HollywoodRejects.com, of him singing like a parody of a Cheers song. Yeah, it gets a little weird, John, so I'm not going to allow that here. Let's see. Hallie made a name for himself. Yeah, he already had to a degree, but give him credit. And I guess this is where I give some of these guys a little bit more credit, and I look at the situation with De'Aaron, and I'll pose the question to all of you. I'm strictly talking about the point guard position. I am not talking about De'Aaron and alienating him, but some of these best point guards in the NBA, or even some of the backups like Moss and I were just talking about, they bring their teams together. They make their teams better as a whole. They elevate those guys' levels of their games because they know where those guys need to be. And to Mr. Moss's point about the screen issues, whether you're going too soon or you're not letting somebody get set, here's something that you don't always think about. If you've played basketball or you played the point guard position, you know this. It is just as much your job to set the defender up for that screen. Get him going a step a different direction, hard crossover, and then take the screen. That's when it's effective. When you just know the screen's coming and you just run off of it, not nearly as effective. And that's what those guys do. They mix it up. And again, they just make people better. They do. And so with the Kings and De'Aaron, I see it both ways. He can make this team better. He can bring this team together. But also, I mean, maybe that's the question from last year. That three ball, while it's an improvement in his game indirectly, does it not really make the team better? De'Aaron's game's better with it, but does it not make the team better? Because you got to point to the free throws. If you're using your pick and rolls, you got to point to physicality. Domantas Sabonis sets some of the best screens in the NBA. You know who else sets some really damn good screens? Trey Lyles. Watch him closely setting the screen. It is a big difference. Baki, I see you there. We'll get to you in a second. I want to keep rolling through the chat for a few minutes. Corn Dog getting some love. We're always it's just Corn Dog now. That's all it is. It's back to Corn Dog. Riley, what's up? So you don't see the A's doing well in Vegas. I don't know, Riley, if I don't know if I even see the A's in Vegas. Honestly, I don't know if that's going to happen. They're going to tell you, oh yeah, we're breaking ground. The casino is shut down now. Basically, we're on the clock to build. We're building, but are they? Have you seen a legit rendering for this stadium in Vegas? Do we know the exact funding for this stadium in Vegas? It's just, oh, here's another one. Do you have any pre-sales on your season tickets for the A's in Vegas? All these things, like think about when the Golden One Center was being built. They started doing digital tours, 3D tours of the building before it was even all the way up. And I know that Vegas or the A's have not had enough time to get something up yet, but to me, it just kind of seems like it's filibustering right now. It is. So I don't know that I see the A's doing well anywhere. Sacramento, the 2 years they come, I think it'll be fine as long as they are smart about those ticket prices. Yes, it was, Dennis, a hell of a shot. Luca, we're going to get to him. Luca over Hallie, I disagree with that. Mark, what's up? They missed a foul on Hallie as well. Guy grabbed his arm going up for a layup. Interesting. We'll go over that full 2-minute report. It's hard for me to scan the 2-minute report and keep on topic with the show because they don't make the 2-minute report super easy to understand and read sometimes. There's a bunch of different abbreviations and such. Yeah, we could talk about that. The new guys are coming. Yes, they are. Luka Edwards, SGA, probably the top 3-point guards in the NBA right now. I know Steph's up there. LeBron, Curry are on their way out. KD even. Yes, they are. Dennis, and what's going to happen with those guys? I'm still in the camp. LeBron needs to be the player, coach, and GM of the Lakers. The NBA is dreading a Pacers versus T-Wolves finals. See, that's so funny to me, and I'll pose it to all of you. The NBA's dreading it, but would you be? I'm excited about that if that happens. Let's see. Corn Dog. Dennis is out. Pacers, I think, got robbed. Well, I'm not going to say they got robbed. Look, Tyrese dribbled the ball off of himself just from a little bit of pressure from Drew Holiday. So they made their mistakes. Rick Carlisle could have advanced the ball. That is correct. Probably should have advanced the ball. So it goes both ways, but I hate to see calls like that are questionable at best. There being no recourse to look back at those things. 2-minute report called out 2 missed calls. Both favored the Pacers. There you go. Riley, do me a favor if you've got the report in front of you, because I'm going through the comments right now. Will you look for that Siakam play? I want to know if that's one where it should have been a call. I'm very curious about that. Let's see, Dennis. Soft sweep for Boston. Probably. Grant and I both think it's going to. Actually, Grant said 5. Yeah, I'm going to say 5. I am with Grant now that I think about it. Mavs in 6. Disagree with you, bad news. Celtics will choke. Not out of the question, Romanowski. Talent. It is a talent and star-driven league. Dennis hopping back in. You need to have talent. We lost TD. Couldn't replace him. Didn't make the playoffs. I'm sorry. I was not Terrence Davis guy. I get he had the huge game against the Nets on national TV. I get he could fill it up from time to time, but you know, those in between times when he wasn't filling up, terrible shot selection. So I do not miss him. I get the Kings probably could have used him more looking back, but if you gave me the option at the start of the season, like the Kings had, I would have done the exact same thing and not kept him on the roster. You got to go or you got to have the bench for sure. Yes, we'll talk about benches here in a second. 13th pick is going to be Carter, Walker, or McCain. All right. Dennis got his names in already. Jonas, you know what? We'll talk about that too. A's had to get out of the Coliseum. Yeah. Isn't it funny how that works? Dennis hopping back in. It's great for small market teams. Kyle, see, I want to get to all your comments. James, they didn't get robbed. That's inexperience at its finest. Kyle, stop. Kyle, stop. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals, my man. They just beat the Knicks in a 7-game series, Kyle, in New York. I think we're past experienced. This isn't the play-in. This isn't the first round. This is the third round of the playoffs. I just think they're tired, Kyle. How about you throw that in there as well? Emotional game 7 in New York, right? Emotional game 7, where they played probably the best offensive game in the history of their franchise. I got to give them a little bit more credit than that. Let's see. That and $3 will get you on the subway with the report. And then it is, Ryan, the Pacers don't have playoff experience. Don't tell me to stop. Well, Kyle. It's a phrase of speech, dude. I say stop to just about anybody. So I'm sorry if that offends you. You don't have to stop as long as you keep it clean. You can keep the comments coming. I don't think inexperience was the biggest role in what happened last night. Do you? I'm really interested to hear that, because the Pacers came in and played a great game. I think they tightened up at the end. I think they did. I think they were tired. I think that they just made some mental mistakes. Coach Carlisle came out, said it. My fault. Should have advanced the ball. He took it like a man. And here's the other thing. I am not going to knock a coach for not fouling in lieu of letting a team shoot the three. I'm not going to knock them for that, because it's such a tricky play. Like, how could I equate this to you guys? Making sure that you foul at the right time, making sure that you don't over foul where they could make it an intentional call or a flagrant, making sure that you foul well enough so that ball still can't go up. Think about how many times people try to foul and guys still get the ball up. Getting a call into the King's Court. Welcome on to the King's Court. You're on with Rhino.
Hey, Ryan, it's Al.
Hey,
I'm just
what's
reading
up, Al?
I'm good, man. How you doing? I'm just
doing
catching
good,
up with
brother.
you, man. I haven't. I'm trying to get up to speed with the new with the King's Court and you guys are in different formats. But I'm reading the Siakam play here. See, I'm Riley on a chat, but I don't know if you knew that. I just call my dog. I don't want people to look. I don't know. I don't want people, knowing my real name on the.
I got it, brother.
Things, so
I got it.
Okay, so see, Siakam was called for making contact with Brown's wrist during rebounding. Upon review, Brown and Siakam were also observed fouling each other while positioning for the rebound, with Siakam fouling Brown by grabbing his arm. Then Brown grabbed Siakam's jersey. Since Siakam committed the first foul in the sequence, and that foul was deemed proximate to the foul called, Siakam maintained the foul, and the challenge is deemed unsuccessful. So there you go.
So that was the one before, because they weren't able to challenge the second one. So they're basically saying anything after that doesn't matter because the missed call first. I got it.
Okay. So there was a second play. Okay, here's the other one. This may be the one you're referring to. Brown briefly grasped to release Siakam's jersey during the throwing, and the contact does not affect Siakam's full FOM. What? This is old guy out.
You're
FOM.
good, brother. I love
it. Range of motion or something or whatever. So
forward movement, probably.
The no call. Yeah. So the no call is wow. I never really took a little in-depth look at this, but then you asked for me to check it. I'm doing that now. But
I
wow.
appreciate it.
Yeah, there's some got to keep up on the acronyms, but yeah, I guess they didn't they thought it was the right call. In fact, the overall what I found when I didn't look at detail was really two missed calls, and they were both favored the Pacers. So, it's just don't dribble your ball off the foot and maybe you win the game. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't want to put it all on the refs. You're absolutely right, Al. I mean, He dribbles it off his foot. And here's the other thing. The play selection that they ran out at the end of regulation, this is like one of those huge differences between Hallie and Fox. Fox, you want the ball in his hands in that situation.
Yeah.
Hallie, I'm not so sure. He's not the one-on-one guy. It takes him a second to get that shot off. And he just was indecisive. And in that moment, you know what? I will give you, Al, I'm gonna go back to Kyle. I will give you inexperience there. That was 100% inexperience, Kyle. When he just decided not to take the first shot or the first look he had, the second look he had, and then he picks up his dribble behind the 3-point line and has to throw up a prayer.
Well, game 1 to the Celtics, and now we'll see what happens. But I agree with your friend who called. The Celtics, the pressure's on. I mean, I told my nephew, he's your age, he's a huge Celtics fan, and he's like, look, this it's the table's set. It couldn't be said any better. So I totally agree with your buddy who was on earlier, and I told this to my nephew. And whether he likes it or not, because he's so defensive of his team, the media's hating the Celtics. You're wearing a yellow jersey, man. Everybody wants a piece of you. But I agree with your friend. The table is set. This is the year they got to get it done. If Tatum's going to have his legacy settle in with some of those other Boston greats, and he's playing for the Celtics, man. This is not the Wizards or the Kings,
Exactly.
The Boston Celtics. But take care, man. Good talking to you.
Yeah,
thanks
Al.
for taking the call.
Yeah, Al. I appreciate you looking that up, and thanks for calling. I was so happy to hear your voice, buddy. I hope you're well.
I got to order another T-shirt. The other one you delivered to me has a hole in it, so I'll be ordering another one soon. But take care, buddy.
All right, brother. We got you taken care of. You just let us know. That is Al. So you know how we talk about the OGs? Al is an OG to the Listen app. He's been with Grant for 25, 30 years. How cool to hear his voice. Here we go from Al to Baki. What's up, Baki? Welcome into the King's Court.
Hey, what's up, Rhino? Hi.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great. No complaints.
Great stuff. Okay, so 2 things. First of all, about that fouling and not fouling. I mean, people must understand when playing basketball, it's not like a video game. So you cannot just hold your stick in your hands and press 1 or 2 buttons and the player will make a foul or not. I mean, it's very, very complex. If you have a team who is with the possession and you have maybe 10 seconds, never mind, fouling right after inbound the ball. I mean, you have nothing from it. I mean, you will not get any plus if you make the foul right after inbound, because you spoiled nothing. You mean the team will maybe ask another timeout. They will draw another action or call some play. So it's very complex. If you want to foul, you can risk the player shooting 3, maybe 4 points play. I mean, it's not that easy. If many people are saying, okay, you should foul when you have 3-point advantage. I mean, I'm not one of them. It's very difficult, and those guys are athletes. I mean, those guys are coaches, players. You have I mean, those guys are in training. They know how to respond to such a situation. So it's not that easy fouling the guy. Okay, if you can foul the guy, maybe 2, 3, you can foul if you spoil the action for another team, maybe 2, 3 seconds before they clock expire, and then you ruin them. But if you do it immediately, you did nothing. So everything else is just a risk. I mean, I don't see nothing good about it. So you can sometimes you can miss the player. You can. I said it's not like the video game. Sometimes you're gonna lose the player. Sometimes you fail to catch him. He will maybe go to the layup, and I don't know. So many people are talking, and from my point, just wasting the time. speaking about fouling or not. This is my point of view. And the second thing I want to talk to you is, I really getting very, very tired listening how 90% of the people are favorize the Timberwolves. Series didn't even start, and it is great basketball from them. I give them that, and it was Edwards great games, but uh, let us take some facts that are simply facts. I mean,
All
they
right.
did the great, they did the great regular season, leading it all the way to the end. But when they need to finish it in number one spot, they failed. Okay, let's go forward. They played great basketball against the champions, and after taking 2-0 on the road, they were simply easily outplayed by Indians, right? So Denver got 20 points lead and blew it. Uh, I blame them. I blame Denver. I don't oversize the team of the Timberwolves in any way. I repeat, they are a great team, great play all the season. But you cannot put one guy in the second half saying, okay, he was silenced first half. So now we're gonna make it him. Now we're gonna make him boom in the second half. You cannot put one guy in the second half. Come on, they are the champs. They are not the team you can choose what will happen. But okay, they went to sleep. Minnesota took it, and that's all for me.
So
So
you don't think Minnesota forced them into any of that type of play?
of course they forced them, but they are forcing them game one. They are forcing him game two. So after, okay, you can lose number one by great play of the opponent. Second game, okay, I don't know what happened, but after going 2 games down, probably the champs react like, okay, we must do plan B, plan C. I don't know what. They came back. They took 3 games in a row. I don't know. Maybe they also think it's over. Now we're gonna take it 4-2. Didn't
Mhm.
happen. Goes to number 7. They did what they should do. They got 15. They got 20. They got everything. And again, they some kind teams this season are going. How many games in this season we have teams letting 20 points? What about Sacramento? Letting 20 points or more drops out. Okay, so I don't know what happened, but my opinion is Denver lose it. Minnesota is great. Edwards is great,
Interesting.
but for me, Denver lose it. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch from Minnesota to Dallas. Okay,
Yeah.
so now let's say something about that. Remember 20 games to go in the regular season, and we were all everybody was so. All of us cheering Sacramento were very positive about we're gonna finish above the
Dallas.
Mavs.
Yep.
Also, a lot of us thought the Mavs won't even qualify for the playoffs, right?
Yep.
Instead, instead they put themselves in the playoffs first. So first Dallas, then everybody, and many days before Suns, before Lakers, before all other teams. uh, Between those teams, I will say playing group. So uh, and then looking at into Luca. The guy. Do you know how they call Luca here in Serbia and Balkans
I,
and Europe somewhere?
I don't.
They say they call him Piggy. So why? Because why? Because you okay, you're smiling because you get it. So the guy is doing all this with all that weight. Let's imagine what would he do if he's more athletic. What will be? He will score 60, 70. I don't know. Gosh, the guy's crazy talent, crazy.
Incredible
I mean,
talent. Yeah.
he's incredible talent. Uh, Putting those points from three, dribble it. I don't know. This is unbelievable. I know Luca from EuroLeague. I saw him 1,000 times, but the level he's got. This is unbelievable. So he's pulling those guys, he's pushing them so high. That's why we have from the team we out of playoffs. Now we have the team in the in the West Finals.
Let me ask you this, because you've watched Luka longer than we have. You watch him in the Euro League. He, I don't know. To me, he looks like he's being held together with duct tape right now. It seems like he's got a nagging injury here, nagging injury there. He's still able to power through. Was that something that he was constantly dealing with, or is this something kind of new to his game, Baki?
Very interesting question from you, because nobody can explain. I mean, it's not possible you are injured and playing like this. I mean, he's not a Superman. He's just a man. I mean, all those injuries he had and he's having right now. I mean, with all of the respect, I don't believe in that. I mean,
Interesting.
I don't believe that. I mean, getting the team through the fight for the playoffs and fight into the playoffs, and now going that deep. We are in the Western Finals, so I don't know if I would not say he's faking it or something like that, but I mean, maybe he's feeling somehow uncomfortable on the court with those injuries. It's not an injury. It's something like, I don't know. I mean, you cannot go to the NBA Finals with an injury and doing 40 points every other game. I mean, and you asked me what was Luka in the earlier. I mean, he was younger and he was just, I mean, the best player on the court every single game.
Just
Even
head and shoulders above.
internationally or EuroLeague, he was dominant. Definitely, everybody knew he's gonna be a star. But okay, I admit, to be a star like this, never, never.
Wow. Interesting.
His boom happened in the final of the European Championship final game against the Serbia, and everybody here was about. Everybody we are getting it easy. We're gonna get the gold, but Luka came in with Dragic, and they killed us. Luka killed us. Dragic killed us, and that was the uh, right direction on the crossroad for Luka.
Very interesting. Well, I'll be interested to see what he does tonight. I want to see how this Mavs team responds on the road. They've had no problems playing on the road. They beat the Clippers on the road. They can win some games away from home. It's just this Minnesota team. Sometimes they're disinterested. Sometimes they just come out a little bit like I don't want to say they panic, Kyle. I'm going to go back to your word, inexperience. Minnesota sometimes, and this is where Anthony Edwards has to be better. He's got to learn how to deal with that double team a little bit better, and he's got to get it away quicker and then relocate, maybe go to a different spot. But I don't know who on Dallas is going to guard him effectively. Jones or Washington Jr., maybe. I just don't see what that matchup's going to be. Who do you think it's going to be, Baki?
You think matching Luka or Kyrie?
No, I'm talking about who's going to guard Anthony Edwards for Dallas.
Ant-Man. Well, I don't know. Did you see in the first half with Denver game, whoever guard him, it was easy job. So what will happen on the court? It depends only on Ant-Man. For me,
well, he was
it
being
doesn't
doubled.
matter who gonna. Okay, you can double, but if you're gonna double Minnesota with all those players,
Yeah. It depends. I mean, Cat is the wild card to me. When he knows what he's gonna do, and I mean stand behind the 3-point line, shoot threes, awesome. If he's got his back to his hoop or to the hoop, awesome. But you don't want Cat with the basketball in open space. We saw him run the baseline the other day. It doesn't look good, and that's led to some turnovers. But I think Conley is kind of that key to keeping that ball moving for that team. But they're so unselfish, Baki. And the greats used to be that way. And I'm not saying Anthony Edwards is there yet, but just his body style, the way he plays the game, the athleticism, the drive. You don't see guys all the time in the NBA that are that locked in and that passionate like he is and just loving it.
If you go to athleticism, I mean, you cannot match Minnesota Timberwolves
No.
like that. You cannot
No.
match them. But that's the point of the game. You have coach, you have staff who will adjust something to match the game. I mean, the whole process. So you cannot go only with that percentage Minnesota winning the series. I mean, I'm fed up with this. I'm seeing, okay, you have the odds, so they are making odds from what will people put the money on. So if I know that everybody gonna bet on Timberwolves, I'm gonna make them bigger favorites. I mean, for me, nothing. I mean, it means nothing. For me, it's 50-50, if you ask me.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Who you got tonight?
Really, I don't know.
All right.
If you ask me 7 times who do you got tonight, I will say 50-50, buddy.
All right. 50-50 it is. We know that is the exact odds of what will happen tonight. Baki, love the call, brother. Thank you.
See ya, buddy.
Take care. Baki always bringing some good perspective. One thing that I wanted to remind everybody of that we have not said, the all NBA teams are being announced today. All NBA teams. You saw the voting for the all defensive teams. Both Sabonis and Fox received votes. Sabonis had more points in the voting than Fox, but it was 4 points to Fox's 3. Neither of them made either of the all defensive teams because it's positionless. You saw a lot of bigs that were in there. Now, all NBA, this is a really interesting one. And I'll ask all of you this. If Sabonis is named, he would be third team in my opinion. But if he's named third team all NBA, does that make up for some of the snubs earlier this year, especially the all-star snub? Because I know probably there's 3 guys on paper, especially with what their teams did this season at that position, that likely will be voted in. But how do you keep Sabonis off of it? The double-double streak breaks the record there. A monster season, led the league in rebounding. He was the only thing consistent about this Sacramento Kings team. And I was sour for a little bit about how the All-Star thing played out and how things started playing out after that with Malik Monk. But I don't think it's any conspiracy. It's anything against Sacramento. I mean, the voters know some things that we don't, but I really would love to be a fly on the wall or at least spend a day in their shoes to understand why Sacramento's dollar's worth 75 cents to the rest of the NBA. It seems like any accomplishment you do here, great. You did the same thing, but it doesn't mean the same thing because you did it for the Kings. So I'm going to be paying close attention to that. That will be announced here in a little bit. Probably will start leaking out anytime. I'm checking ESPN right now as we talk. The other thing that I didn't talk to Baki about that I do want to bring up, adjustments. I think Coach Finch has done an excellent job in Minnesota making adjustments in game. And I know it's been a little bit difficult for him because he's been behind the bench after having knee surgery. But Dallas, I was surprised. Coach Malone, not a lot of adjustments in that game 7, or at least a lot that really jumped out to me. And I get once you get to a game 7, it is really hard to make adjustments at that point. The two teams know each other so well. I mean, almost by the time you get to game 6, throw the film out. You're not even really watching the film anymore. It's looking for little things in games. It's hoping to target certain things like foul trouble or maybe a certain player where you might have noticed a weakness somewhere else. But the adjustments in this Western Conference Finals, it's going to be everything to me. Look, I think Minnesota, number one, they're going to come out, and that's going to be an electric building tonight. I don't see any way Dallas wins this game on the road in Minnesota. Minnesota favored by 4.5 points as it sits right now. I don't think it's a blowout, but I do think they win by more than 4.5. I'm going to say somewhere between 9 and 11. But will Ant-Man have a big game? I think one thing, win or lose, if I'm Dallas, I want to see what Kyrie Irving's able to do. You know, Ant-Man's going to be matched up on him. So does that maybe elevate Kyrie's level of game? Does that make him step up to the plate and take it a little bit more personally? Because, you know, Ant-Man talking about it in interviews, that's going to be my guy. That's who I'm going to stick. But then the Gobert stuff, the Karl Anthony Towns stuff, the McDaniels stuff. Look, those guys, when they're on, they're on. And it seems like it's as a unit, they're all on at the same time, or they're struggling. They're forcing it too much. So be prepared if you are Minnesota to see different looks from Dallas, even if they mix in a little bit of zone defense. But the speed of Minnesota, I really worry about that versus the speed of the Dallas backcourt. I guess Conley and Irving, you could argue speed-wise about the same, but now we start talking about Doncic, we start talking about Anthony Edwards, and things start changing a little bit. But then things change again when you look at the front lines. And I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, Dallas, I don't want to say squeaked by OKC, but do you think had that one gone 7, that the result may have been a little bit different? I'm not sure. It doesn't matter because what happened happened. Dallas earned that series, earned that win. They're in the Western Conference Finals. And again, I've said it, anybody but Dallas because of the changes that they made at the trade deadline, and the Kings did not. Now, a couple more things I want to get to before we bounce out of here. And remember, we'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight. We'll be doing a post-game show after the Western Conference Finals. According to James Ham, Kings ownership unhappy with Mike Brown. Again, I will repeat, according to James Ham, Kings ownership unhappy with Mike Brown. Quote, let me read this verbatim for you. The failure to repeat the success of the previous year has not set well with ownership, according to sources. This should be a complicated matter, but like everything else this shouldn't be a complicated matter, but like everything else in Sacramento, it is. Where do we stand on that? I could see some frustration, but does that frustration completely lie on Mike Brown? Look, I mean, these guys are professionals. They had a lot of autonomy this year to do what they wanted. That certainly could go on Mike Brown, can't it? It by many accounts, I have been very hard on Mike Brown in that area. I thought that was a bad call. You see the guys having success, the teams having success in the playoffs this year. Adjustments are being made all the time. We saw a huge difference with the Kings when they came out and ran set plays. Just think of the start of the play-in game against Golden State. That is the one that sticks out to me. Mark Graves, the Kings owner, thinks they're elite. The West is tough. There's part of that to it. I mean, I will say this. I've said it all week. The margin, the difference between Dallas suiting up tonight in Minnesota for game 1 of the Western Conference Finals and the Kings being out of the play-in and out of the playoffs altogether, it's like this. It is razor thin. Romanowski hopping back in. Kings lost to the Pistons, Blazers, Wizards, Hornets, plus all the blown leads. Jordan hopping in. Why not bring back Rick Adelman if they're not happy? Yeah, that's funny. I wish that would be nice. By the way, I am looking live on X. We have got 128 live on the X platform. Thank you so much for being here on the King's Court. You can call the show 916 399 3748. You can also use the link through Restream. You don't have to be on video there. Look, Vivek Ranadive, we know that the way he evaluates things is much different. He comes from a different background. Business owner, entrepreneur, basketball, not really included in that. Now, remember, and I don't want to be this guy because usually I am not a big fan of this guy, but we almost didn't have basketball in Sacramento. So the fact that we are sitting here talking about things like this, could Vivek be managing different? Why is there so much turnover? Why can't we commit to a coach? Those are all conversations we would not be having if we didn't have Vivek step in by the team. And the efforts of all of you, the efforts of local business owners here in Sacramento, the efforts of Carmichael Dave, the efforts of Grant, and so many others. Kevin Johnson. I could go on for days, and the problem is I would be leaving people out. So with that perspective in mind, here's what's troubling to me. Why is this coming out this way? For whatever reason, the Kings can't seem to just hit things head on. Some organizations do. How about Pat Riley earlier in the offseason, basically calling out Jimmy Butler right there on the spot? I get you could say, well, that's a conversation that needs to happen behind closed doors. Sure. But also, if it's a conversation where there's whispers in the hallways, especially with the media, and you can see the writing on the wall that there is a narrative starting, that there could be a problem, that's the way you cut it off at the head. You're aware of it. You hit it head on. It's the best I can put it. I feel really uneasy about this. I do. Let's take a step back. We did not have a playoff team for 16 years. 16 years. Okay, Romanowski, it's the going rate for a coach in the NBA. And again, I'll ask you guys, and it's exactly what I was getting at. 16 years, you don't make the playoffs. Mike Brown's been here 2 seasons. You've been in a 7-game series, and you've been in the play-in. Now, I get the play-in means you don't make the playoffs, and that is a problem coming off of the previous year. 2 things we're not accounting for. The NBA got much better this year. The West got much better. Now, you can put a little bit of blame. What's up, Flores? I think it's the first time I've seen you in here today. I don't want to see a coach change right now. Don't think that's the solution exactly. Some people, and I'm not saying it's Vivek, but can we say confidently this Kings organization, they're not good in long-term relationships. Like, if they were engaged to get married, you know damn well they're walking down the aisle with running shoes on. This is the steadiest this team has been in years, and you are at a crucial time, a crucial crossroads for this Sacramento organization about decisions that could affect not just next season, but decisions that could affect the next 5 years of Sacramento Kings basketball and the possible ceiling, the possibility of winning a championship, the possibility of being in a complete rebuild. These are the decisions that are on the table. And Mike Brown, I'm not saying he has been the best captain in the NBA. Now, granted, he was the first ever unanimous coach of the year last year. That should tell you something. But he's been the steadiest captain we've had. Whether you agree with everything he does or you don't. I've disagreed with many things this season. I thought that the adjustments came late. I thought he never settled into a rotation. I thought that the challenges were a problem. He let the guys play in terms of the offense. He let them just go free will. Motion offense. Do what you're going to do. Let it fly. Spray the ball. I mean, those are things that we say to rec league teams that are playing at their local municipal center. You know, like, where's the next level of coaching? So you can criticize there. But at the end of the day, it comes down to this. The guy wants to get paid, and I'm okay with that. You're going to have to pay a coach. Do you think it's a better course to go a completely different direction after we've had just the slightest bit of stability? It doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you bring another coach in, guess what? They're going to want a number right around 10 million too. So I hate to see, and if that's the problem, it's Mike Brown, address it. But I have a hard time believing that it's all on Mike Brown. Mike Brown is not the general manager of this team. Mike Brown has to make the best out of the pieces that he has. We're not privy to the conversations behind closed doors. We don't know if him and Monty are holding hands singing Kumbaya, or if they're at each other's throats. We have no idea. Now, you can take guesses. You can try to make reads on the situation based on the moves that have been made. You can look closely at the press conferences and the different comments that sometimes contradict each other. I'm not going to say always, but if I would be lying if you hooked me to a lie detector and asked, do you think that there's a little tension inside the Kings front office and with the coaching staff? If I said no, it would probably go off. I think there's something to that, but that's okay. You know why? Tension is sometimes good. You don't always want to have people that constantly agree. Healthy debate, healthy conversation is good. And we keep talking about this Nugget model, right? The Nuggets, smaller market team. That is how you build a championship window. And that is how you build a team. Well, guess what? Mike Malone's ass was on the hot seat last year, and there were talks about him possibly being fired if they didn't get it done. So it's not out of the norm, but what is in the norm is any time it becomes that time, that place where you need to make a commitment to a coach. This happens. No matter who it is, it happens. It has always happened since Rick Adelman left Sacramento. And so it's frustrating to me that now this is kind of leaking out there. But if you want to leak this out, let us know who's frustrated with Mike Brown. Is it ownership? Is it players? Could that be pieces of the puzzle? Now, look, I've drawn some intuitions. I've drawn some connections between certain things. Yesterday, I asked Jerry Reynolds, I said, do you think maybe not everybody was on the same page with the decision to extend Sabonis last offseason? Do you think maybe some people thought that money could be used in a better way to improve the team immediately? And he said, you know what? I think that question is fair and it's not asked enough. So we need more information, but I do find it very funny that this is leaking out. And Grant and Jerry both thought it was a non-issue. I've seen some of you in the chat. I do not think it's a non-issue that Mike Brown goes into this season with basically an option at the end of the season. And I believe it's I think both he and the team have an option, I want to say, for the following year. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So interesting stuff out of Sacramento. We will have much more on that tomorrow. I will continue talking to some of my sources, trying to find out more information. And I'll tell you what, not really what you want to hear when you're chasing down Malik Monk, when you're hoping Malik Monk is going to stay in Sacramento. In fact, I venture to say it's the exact opposite of what you want to hear. Now, if Malik Monk is not a fan of Mike Brown, that could be something. I'm not reporting that. I don't know that. I'm just saying, is De'Aaron Fox a fan of Mike Brown? I don't know. Who's in this camp that is not completely happy with Mike Brown? Kings ownership unhappy with Mike Brown. Because I'll tell you this, Vivek, a little bit of a different guy when it comes to basketball. You've heard some of his big ideas on things the Kings could do, ways the Kings could play. So more information needs to come up. We will look at that some more. I want to end on this before we get out of here, because I thought it was a really interesting story that I think we should all keep our eyes on. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing. We can talk about it more tomorrow. But Jaden Rashada, a college football player who is now enrolled at Georgia, he originally signed a letter of intent with the University of Florida. And he signed the letter of intent under the pretense that there was going to be $1 million payment or somewhere around that number made to him and or his family for him choosing Florida. That is against NCAA rules. However, what is not against NCAA rules is NIL deals where boosters broker deals to pay players for different endorsements, whatever they may be. But here's a first of its kind. Jaden Rashada is suing the University of Florida for this. He is saying he was due that money and he wants to get that money. And now, and the NCAA investigating the situation. Not just that, another big recruit who recently signed on to Florida. There's some reporting on some of the deals that he may have been offered. So keep an eye on this. I want to expand on it tomorrow. I do want to get out, though, because we're not too far away from the start of the Western Conference Finals. Game 1, that tips off at 5:30. Minnesota, 4.5-point favorites as of right now. Timberwolves and the Mavericks. Who you got? I am going Timberwolves. I think they win anywhere between 9 and 11 tonight. I think the building's going to be rocking, and I think we're going to have a lot to talk about after the game. Make sure you're with us 8 p.m. We will be together, Grant and I, talking about the game, taking your calls, taking your comments, and definitely probably hitting on this news on Mike Brown, hitting on some other things. I appreciate all the calls. Baki, Corn Dog, Mr. Moss, thank you for making it better. Al, I love that you called via the phone. Thank you so much for that. I know we had a little bit of a shorter Kings Court today. That's all right, because guess what? We are back live tomorrow on our normal time slot at 2 o'clock Pacific. Thank you all so much for being here. Tadora, take us home as always.
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Love it. Go Kings, light the beam. For today, court is dismissed.